July 14th, 1988. Conor McGregor is born. A little baby Conor McGregor, to be exact. And he come out of his mother with clenched fists, according to his dad, who said he'd always been a fighter. His mum wasn't able to see that, she was a bit busy at the time. But he was born and raised in Crumlin, which is sort of known for being a bit of a rough city, but the locals say it's fine, don't worry about it. As a kid, Conor seemed like any other Irish lad, you know, loved football, supported Man United. But when he turned 12, that was where his love of fighting started. That was when young Conor would walk into Crumlin Boxing Club. And this is where he would meet a man called Phil Sutcliffe. Now Phil would later become his boxing coach, and he was the one who taught Conor how to switch stances and a lot of the skills that would eventually make Conor a nightmare for everyone. But unfortunately for Conor, at 17, his family would move to Luton, which was considered to be a more desirable area. But for him, that meant leaving the gym, and with that, all of his friends. Now, many people know Conor's dad in MMA. Tony is a charismatic dude. He is a sharp dresser. But what they might not know is back in the day, he was a hard-working man. I mean, he was taxi driving, he was a hospital orderly, and he encouraged Conor to go and get himself an honest job. Conor ended up in a plumbing apprenticeship, which meant every morning he'd be waiting by the side of the motorway to get picked up, taken to site and installing pipes.
We drive 2 hours in the traffic all the way to the site, and it was just a rough time for me, and I knew that I did not want to pursue this life. So I left and I quit, and I went home and I told my father, I said, there's not a hope in hell you're going to ever get me back on that building site again.
And it got to the point where his dad goes up the stairs, he's throwing money at him, please go do your apprenticeship, go to college, and I'll give you 10 grand. He offered him 10 grand to do it. He turns his quilt over, nah dad, I'm not going, it's not for me. It's rumoured at that point, Tony McGregor got pretty angry.
And he essentially said, we'll see about that, and we had many, many fights. Although I may have lost the fights we had, but essentially I won because I did not go back to the building site.
Now, as you can imagine, Conor was pretty disillusioned. I mean, we know the man now, he wasn't going to settle for that lifestyle, let's be honest. So he really needed someone to turn to, and the man he turned to was John Kavanagh. Now, we first met John at 15 years old when he walked into his gym, and Paddy Houlihan said he rocked up with a crazy haircut, boxer shorts on, and a boxer's angry face. He wasn't there to become part of the family, he wanted to compete. He wanted to fight. With a bit of sparring and a bit of grinding from John Kavanagh, they worked up an understanding that they could really help each other a lot. The more Conor went to the gym and learned MMA, the more he wanted to go. Whereas it was the exact opposite with work. I mean, he had no interest in becoming a plumber at all. Conor then threw himself completely into the sport of MMA. He had his first fight. I mean, he rocked up in beach shorts, but he still beat the living hell out of the other guy. And the power is clear as day to see in that first video. Second fight, the confidence is coming now. The movement is coming. He is growing as a fighter every day. He meets his idol, Chuck Liddell, at UFC 85 in London. Things could be going better from a career standpoint, but behind the scenes, it's still not looking good. In his next fight, Conor would lose by submission, which definitely brought him down a peg or two. Then things went from bad to worse. Conor took some tickets that were set aside for John Kavanagh, sold them, spent the money on himself, which basically meant he was stealing from his own coach. It came out, Conor wouldn't even face John Kavanagh. He was so ashamed of what he'd done, he'd barely get out of bed. The only way this relationship was repaired was by Conor's mum going and begging John Kavanagh, please give him another chance. And that's what got Conor back in the game. Now, we've all seen the relationship John and Conor have. I mean, they're like brothers, you know, but it feels like this point in their relationship was the turning point after reading this quote, which says, his mother was worried. Her name was Margaret, my mother's Margaret too. And it was one of the first times, maybe the first time, that a parent had reached out to me. It got me thinking, maybe I've got a bigger role here than punching and kicking. Maybe I'm doing a bit more for them than I thought. And I guess I started to realise that a lot of people get into fighting for the same reasons I did. It's not for the fighting, they are dealing with something in their childhood. Conor pissed John off, so John just pinned him down, pummeled the fuck out of him, and made him promise he was there to learn to fight and not for street brawl. The fact is, everyone looks at Conor McGregor now as Mr. Success in fighting. He's got so much money, but back then, he was a bum. Like, he couldn't even afford training gear, and he needed someone to partner him on this journey. And they say behind every successful man, there's an even better woman.
That to me was a special thing to be able to do. My girlfriend worked very, very hard throughout the years coming up and stuck by me when essentially I had absolutely nothing.
She's tall, she's brunette, she's beautiful. She's got like a girl next door face and like a really nice smile. She's got hips on her, but she's slim and she's in great shape. Like, despite Conor being such an outspoken, nasty piece of work at times, she calms him. She's the warmth, the care and the love when he is acting outrageous, you know? She seems like the type of lass who you could be all ready to fight and rip someone's head off and she could just calm you right down. No problem. So the first time he sees her, gets her attention in the nightclub, starts cracking the jokes out, you know, getting her laughing, as you do. She gets home, next morning wakes up, friend request from Conor McGregor. Smooth Conor, real smooth. Before you know it, Dee's moved into the house with Conor's mum and dad and is staying with Conor 24/7. She's helping him with her money from her job. She's looking after him in every way possible. She's taking him to the gym as a taxi service. She's cooking for him, she's cleaning for him. She is his confidant. After Conor battled so long, training hard every day, getting the fucking shit kicked out of him, and then his dad not believing in his dream and feeling like he'd let him down, he finally had someone who was going to support him all the way. And that must have made a massive difference. You know, like, you're sitting to yourself saying, I can be world champion one day, and everyone thinks you're crazy. Now finally someone that you love believes that as well. And they would often speak about this on the car journeys to the gym and speak their future into existence. One day, Dee's not going to have to work and I'm going to be world champion and everything's going to happen just like this. And it did.
I'm a professional MMA fighter with a record of 4-1. I'm an up-and-coming fighter and without a doubt you will see me on the UFC in the near future, without a doubt.
But it wasn't easy. McGregor went on an absolute tear in Cage Warriors. Knockout after knockout after knockout. People were dropping like flies around this guy. And this culminated in the lightweight title fight against Ivan Boschinga, where he battered him and finished him with a devastating trademark McGregor left hook that left Conor McGregor a two-weight world champion in Cage Warriors and on top of the world, it seemed. But in reality, he still didn't have a lot of money. One of his best mates had been told some very bad medical news after fighting for too long, and the UFC still hadn't called. The dream was still a mile away. Enter Dana White.
Welcome to the UFC, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So there's been a lot of hype. I guess the hype is real.
Dana was in Ireland accepting the gold medal of honorary patronage from Trinity College, where everyone he met said, when are you going to sign Conor McGregor? He was like, who? He pretty soon became aware of who Conor McGregor was, got the meeting together, and not long after that meeting, he calls Lorenzo Batista and says, look, I don't know if this kid can fight, but if he can, we've got a bona fide star on my hands with this lad. So after sitting on the dole for a few months and feeling like shit about himself, because no one feels good on the dole, except me uncle, because he's a lazy bastard, Conor McGregor was finally going to make his way into the UFC against Marcus Brimage, who was known to bang and going to try and take his fucking head off. Conor gets in there and we see movement like we've never seen in the UFC. We've seen good strikers before, but the angles that he's coming in at and the uppercuts and the shots he was throwing, we'd not seen that style before. And Marcus Brimage was in way over his head. And Marcus Brimage was good, but McGregor he looked like Neo from the Matrix in there. He couldn't be touched and he just smashed this lad to bits and announced himself on the world stage in his first fight. He got knocked out of the night and he instantly connected with the crowd, which is something no one has done better than him. When he shouted at Dana White, 60 G's, baby, and that's what he wanted and that's what he got from Dana. He instantly had control over Dana, over the UFC, over the crowd, and over the fight. And he's never stopped doing that from that first fight. Next up, it was Max Holloway, who's gone on to become a world champion, but this fight came way too soon in his career for him. Conor was on a level above in every single facet of MMA. He controlled and dominated this fight, even with an injury. The problem is we didn't realize how big of an injury it was. And after the fight, it came out that Conor had ruptured his ACL, which brought his UFC dream to a grinding halt. I remember that time in the UFC vividly because UFC had been putting so much energy behind this kid and all of a sudden he's gone and we don't know if he's coming back. We don't know if he's going to be as good as he was when he comes back. But by all accounts from the doctors, he competed obsessively with George St. Pierre on his recovery because George St. Pierre had the exact same injury, and every day it's what did George do? How did George do this? Did George do that this quickly? He wanted to beat George back to the octagon. Even when he was recovering from an injury, it was all a competition. And when he did come back, he came back with a vengeance. In his comeback fight, Conor was matched up against a hard Brazilian bastard in Diego Brandão. He was a man no one wanted to fight. He looked evil on The Ultimate Fighter. Then they put it in Dublin, Ireland, just to ramp the pressure up more. It's in his own backyard. So that's the first time in a main event on the UFC. Diego Brandão staring across the cage from him in his own backyard. And it's his comeback fight where he has to remind everyone who he is. He doesn't want anyone to forget. Conor McGregor is the rising star in the UFC, and how does he deal with all that pressure? He runs across the cage and beats the fucking shit out of him. He makes him look like an amateur, and he lets the whole world know, we're not here to take part, we're here to take over. Next up, it's a tough motherfucker in Dustin Poirier, and we've only really realised how good this kid is since that fight because everyone else has had their absolute hands full with him. But before the fight, Conor is baiting him, winding him up, getting him over emotional, making him want to run and take Conor's head off, because when he does that, he forgets the game plan, he forgets the technique.
Coming up against me, that's not going to be good. You know, I'm going to crack him with a jab and he's going to wobble and I'm going to put him away early. It's going to be a first round KO, mark my words.
And it works a charm. Conor predicts a first round knockout, which seemed a little bit unrealistic at the time, but Poirier walks onto every big shot because Conor is in his head. We're seeing for the first time really the mind games of Conor McGregor. He lands the big shot just as he predicted, finishes Dustin Poirier in the first round, and this was the fight that earned Conor the nickname Mystic Mac.
So I said I'd knock him out in the first round, and I knocked him out in the first round. You can call me Mystic Mac because I predict these things.
Now was the chance for Conor to seize his title shot. All he had to do was beat Dennis Siver, which seemed like an easy matchup on paper. I mean, the bloke is nowhere near the size of McGregor, and McGregor made easy work of him. The most entertaining thing about the fight came after it, when Conor jumped the cage, stares right in the face of Jose Aldo in the crowd and screams into his face. He lets him know right there and then there is no fear. And that was the first time we'd ever seen anyone act like that towards Jose Aldo. Aldo was undefeated for 10 years. He was feared by everyone. No one wanted to fight Jose Aldo. And Conor made it a massive statement there and saying, I'm coming for you. Spit shine that fucking belt, pal. The mind games Conor played in the run-up to that fight took a massive toll on Jose, and it literally started the second he finished fighting Dennis Siver. That really shows what a genius and a master tactician McGregor could be in the art of fighting. So Dana makes the fight. Jose Aldo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Muay Thai specialist, an absolute animal, undefeated for 10 years, against a wild man from Ireland who can't stop knocking people out. They went on a world tour where Conor relentlessly pushed him, shoved him, touched him, ripped his belt off of him, did everything he could to get into that man's mind, and it seemed like it worked, because not long before the fight was meant to happen, Aldo pulls out with an injury. Now that injury was a pretty bad injury, but Conor had worse injuries at the time. His ACL was knocked again, and it really seemed like Conor finally got it into his head just where he wanted to. In steps Chad Mendes.
Commission, Chairman Anthony Marnell. Main event of the evening, sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Chairman Anthony Marnell, Executive Director Bob Bennett, Commissioners Stacey Alonso, Christopher Alt, Dallas E. Hahn, and Dr. Robert McBeath. Our three judges scoring this contest at Octagon side are Derek Cleary, Sal Diamato, and Junichiro Kamijo. And when the action begins, our referee in charge of the Octagon, Herb Dean. This bout is sponsored by Harley Davidson. Get your first taste of Harley Davidson adrenaline at h-d.com. And P3, the official protein snack of the UFC. Metro PCS is now Metro by T-Mobile. Discover the smarter way to get unlimited and see what's new on October 8th. And now, for those in attendance and UFC fans watching around the world, this is the moment you've truly all been waiting for. Live from the sold-out T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, it's time! 5 rounds for the undisputed UFC Lightweight Championship the world. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, a mixed martial artist holding a professional record, 21 wins, 3 losses. He stands 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighing in at 154.5 pounds. Fighting out of Dublin, Ireland, presenting the former UFC featherweight champion, the former UFC lightweight champion, Ireland, the notorious, the champion, fighting out of the red corner, a mixed martial artist holding an undefeated professional record, 26 wins, no losses. He stands 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighing in at 155 pounds. Fighting out of Dagestan, Russia, presenting the reigning Nurmagomedov.
Instructions. We're going to keep this clean. Touch gloves now if you wish to. All right, let's do this.
Well, if you bet that the fighters would not touch gloves, cash those tickets, and wherever you are in the world tonight, one way or another, we will all witness a piece of UFC history. The King is back, looking to regain his throne. And we are underway. This fight clock brought to you by Modelo Especial, brew with a fighting spirit since 1925. McGregor in green, Nurmagomedov in black. McGregor lands early.
Pressure right off the bat by Conor. He's trying to force the shot out of Khabib with pressure instead of waiting for Khabib to come at him.
Khabib got a hold of his ankles. He's got his leg.
And what he's got to do is get his left leg over the back ankle of Khabib's right leg. He needs to get that. Conor needs the left leg behind the ankle of Khabib in order to stuff this. And now he's got it. But a good defense by Conor so far. Look at this. Got the ankles. As long as he stays on the ankle, he's good.
He's doing a fantastic job of defending. Look at him spinning around. Khabib looking to complete the takedown, and he gets it.
Man.
Conor gets right up to the cage. Let's see if he can get back up to his feet. It's one of the big questions. He's got his feet tied up well. Look how good Khabib has done a job of wrapping those two legs up together.
This is what he does to everybody he fights. He crosses your legs, and now if your legs can't get away, then you can't get up. You're pinned to the floor. And he's done this better than anybody. He elevates and straightens your legs out. And now what he's going to do is try to lift Conor's knees and legs higher than Conor's head so that he can't move. Conor's just got to stay calm and not use his energy because he's not taking damage here.
It feels like he's far better equipped to handle 5 rounds than he was when he left in 2016.
Khabib does such a good job of wrapping those legs up, extending them and wrapping them up so you can't get them out from under you.
I've never seen anybody be able to straighten a leg out like that. The way he hangs and he almost knee bars you by collecting your heel up. It's just different how he holds you there. Most people can get away when you do that, but when Khabib grabs your legs, he just keeps them.
Yeah, he's doing it again. Look at him pinch those legs together.
He does it different, and they cross every single time. He crosses them over each other.
He's just so good at squeezing.
This is what you got to do to Conor early, though. If you're Khabib, you have to do this early. You can't try to give him all the rest he needs in the first couple rounds. That's when Conor's the most dangerous.
Couple right hands have landed for Khabib. His first strikes of the fight. McGregor trying to control his breathing. Ate a big right hand there.
And what Conor's doing is he's trying to dig underhooks and stay in a ball so there's no hooks. So Conor, see how he's got over the top of Khabib's head or his arms? He needs to get in between the arms and legs of Khabib if he's going to get up. He can't be on the outside of Khabib's arms here.
Again, Khabib ties those legs up.